In the first part, I will ask you some personal questions. First, I'd like to ask about your job. What do you do?
I'm currently work as a civil servant and government officer. I'm in the international department, so I can use English every day.
Do you like your job?
Yes, I like it. I can learn a lot of things every day, from environmental program to digital development.
What job do you think you will have by the next 5 years?
Next 5 years, I'm still considering what job is a suit, but I'm thinking to enroll university again. The major is computer science, so I might that kind of a job like IT industry.
Now let's move on and talk about the transportation. Do you prefer public transportation or private transportation?
When it comes to the fee, traffic transportation is quite affordable, and it's more easy to move around, especially in the big city. But the private car is also have a personal time. So if I can visit the urban area, I prefer use public transportation.
Is it easy to catch a bus in your country?
It's depend on the area. Especially in the rural area, you might difficult to catch a bus transportation, public transportation. Some of the area known for the insufficient transportation system.
Now let's move on and talk about colors. What colors do you like?
Colors. I love a lot of color, but now my mood is red. Red is relevant, the passionate, and sometimes the seeing a red color makes me the energize and motivate to do something.
Do you like to wear dark or bright colors?
Bright color, absolutely. The wearing, especially the clothes, wearing the bright color makes me more positive and change myself kind of outgoing person.
Thank you. What's the difference between men and women's preferences for colors?
As far as I know, the women tend to be prefer bright color, and the mom prefer the column color, like black, white, and that kind of the dark color.
Thank you very much. Now we can move on to the second part of the exam. In the second part, Hannah, I will give you a card with a topic and you should talk about it for 2 minutes. But first, you have 1 minute to think about the topic and make notes. You should describe a famous food from your hometown or country. You have now 1 minute to think about the topic and make notes, and your 1 minute time starts now. All right, then. You have now 2 minutes to talk about the topic, and your time starts now.
I'd like to talk about the known food from my country, that is sushi. Although there are a lot of kind of Japanese traditions food cuisine, like sushi, tempura, curry, and ramen, but one of the famous food is a sushi. When I visit the other country, the Germany and even Kazakhstan, I've seen a lot of Japanese restaurant, and I also visit there to try the taste, and I was surprised how different the authentic Japanese food, but I want to try the real Japanese food, the all over the country people. So Japanese, I know there are a lot of people visit in Japan to try Japanese culture and the tradition, but also the cuisine too. So there are a lot of places to try sushi, and that is the raw fish with rice. I think that is the original and unique food, only Japan. So I'm proud of the Japanese food, and I want to try to the everyone Japanese food.
Thank you very much. In the second part, Hannah, you talked about a famous food from your hometown or country. And now, in the third part, I would like to ask you some questions related to this topic.
Mm-hmm.
What are the types of food that people eat in your country?
In my country nowadays, there are variety type of the food we eat. Typically, we have a traditional food called washoku, including miso soup, rice, and vegetable and fish.
Mm-hmm. And
But
what about foreign food? What kinds of foreign food are popular in your country?
I've seen a lot of foreign food restaurant, the curry, Indian and Thailand, also the Germany. But I think the Italian food is the most famous and popular in Japan,
Why do you think so?
especially. I think that the taste is suited for us, and it's quite affordable for Japan
Mm-hmm.
compared to the other type of cuisine.
Thank you. Do you think that it's important to have a meal together with your family in your culture?
Could you say it again?
Sure, I can repeat the question. Do you think that it's important to have a meal together with your family in your culture?
Yes, that is very important for us. We have a busy schedule, and mealtime is the only time talk to gathering the family, and that is considered the gathering the family.
Mm-hmm.
But
Perfect.
recently, the women started working, so I think that less time to the family gathering.
Mm-hmm. Now that we're talking about different kind of food, let's move on and talk about diet and eating habits.
Mhm.
Do you think you have a healthy diet?
Yes, I hope so. I try to lose diet. That's why I introduce the diet, the more healthier, eating vegetable and avoid fatty food and snack.
Mm-hmm. And do you think that our eating habits generally are different compared to the past?
Yes, compared to the past, I definitely say it's more healthier. The past, I tend to eat a lot of the snack, and I have a sweet tooth, so I can't stop eating chocolate. But I try to not vote the kind of snack.
Thank you very much. Now, this is the end of the speaking test, and we can now move on to the feedback part.
Do you want to know what band score you'll get in the IELTS speaking test? Perhaps you want to improve your performance and prepare yourself for the real test? Then why not book an online mock test with us that will last for 25 minutes? 12 minutes of the test itself and 13 minutes of comprehensive feedback, plus we'll give you useful tips on how to make your performance better. So, we know how to help you. Join us.
Okay, that was a lot of talking. Do you have any questions?
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate that you give me this feedback because I know this will help me. This is exactly what I need.
Although my job is hard, I enjoy doing it.
Because you have already practiced this part. The last time I'm going to on the exam day, you should make sure, okay, this is the last time I'm going to talk about
IELTS Academy for our generation.
Find out movie and talk about what's in the movie and film. So, we were talking about cinema or film.
But before I get started with your score, Hannah, I just want to give you a general idea of your performance. Like first, we talk about the structure you applied, the topic development you had, and of course, what the expectations are in the real test. Then we will talk about your score, and then you can ask your questions, of course. So first to get us started with part one. As you know, and as you have already taken IELTS exam before, you should definitely know that part one is about short questions, short answers. And you managed to give me some short answers, but the most important thing is to provide explanations. And you also did that well. Just so you know, in the first part, there is always like a standard length to your answer, and that's like 2 to 3 sentences. But I'm talking about complex grammatical structures. So you should pay attention to that in the real test as well. In the second part, you also did well because you covered your time, your 2-minute time, you covered the bullet points and you talked about them. And it's actually necessary to cover the 2-minute time, not to stop talking before this time is over. And you did that well as well. In the third part, you also did well because you gave me some longer answers, and you should note this part is about longer answers compared to those in part one. So if in part one you're giving like maximum 3 sentences, in the third part you'd better give more than 3 sentences, like depending on the point you're trying to make. So I can say your problem is not with the structure or the topic development because you know what exactly you should do in each part and how long or short your answers should be. And whatever question you got, you managed to answer the questions. So that's a good thing. And this brings us to the first criteria, which is your fluency and coherence. In the first criteria, Hannah, the examiner pays attention to the 2 things that I already pointed out, the structure and the topic development. And as I mentioned, these 2 are not your problem because you are familiar with what exactly you should do and the question types or the different topics you might face in IELTS exam. However, other than the 2, if you have hesitations, self-repetitions, or self-corrections, you would lose mark in the first criteria. I can say you could generally maintain your fluency. You did have very few self-repetitions or some hesitations, but most of your hesitations were content related. Like you were not struggling to come up with the next idea, looking for the vocabulary or grammar, so you know how to maintain your fluency. But something which is missing here is a better range in your connectives. This is actually the main problem you have in the first criteria, and that's the reason why you are losing mark. So as you know how to manage, how to handle the different topics, and you know how to maintain your fluency, why not using a few more connectives? Because if you're only using and, so, but, because, the simple connectives, you cannot get a score higher than a 5. So when you are repeating the word and, like for example, you use this word 3 times, 4 times, the next time you can use an alternative to that. For example, the word plus, besides, moreover, in addition to that. Instead of but, you can use however. Instead of so, you can use therefore. Or instead of repeating because, you can sometimes use as or since. But you don't have to limit yourself to those only. Any conjunction, any connective that you feel comfortable with, you can simply add it to your sentences, to your speaking. Or, for example, on the one hand, on the other hand, although, even though, otherwise. So you can make a list of the ones that you can use naturally and 100% correctly, and then practice using them. So, because of everything I mentioned, you got a 5 in your fluency and coherence, but it's a piece of cake for you to get a 6 because you sound fluent when you're talking. It's just about maybe more connectives and fewer self repetitions or hesitations. And the only way to do that is to fake your answer when you don't know what to say or how to answer a question. You can simply lie, but in a logical manner, in a way that you're actually answering the question, but not telling the truth. Necessarily. And of course, you can go off topic, like link the topic to something close to that one in a way that you're answering the question in a logical manner again. So that's about the fluency. In the next criteria, your vocabulary, your lexical resource, you got a 6 because whatever question you got, either familiar or unfamiliar, you managed to answer the questions. And you used some vocabulary in the given topic. So, for example, when it comes to something, to be proud of something, busy schedule, mealtime, or to have a sweet tooth as an idiom, this is perfect. I can say the best thing you did in this criteria was to use good synonyms. Like the synonyms you used were better than the vocabulary range you included generally. For example, the word currently, affordable, passionate, cuisine, well known, tend to do something. So I believe if you want to make sure you're getting 6 and above, you should show your vocabulary range to the examiner. You got a 6 today in your vocabulary, but you are likely to get a 5 if you just use simple words that can be used in all topics. So, for example, if you get a topic about the weather, what do you know about what do you have about the weather? Show your vocabulary, even the simple ones. If I ask you about computers, what do you know about computers? If you don't know anything, no vocabulary, then link it to a close topic just so you show some more vocabulary in a natural way to the examiner. So that's about this criteria. If you want to even get a better score, like a 7 or above, you need more idioms, more collocations. But I would say if you just get a 6, like the same score you got today, that would do. Talking about your grammar, Hannah, this is actually the weak point, like the part that is marking you down the most. Because if you work on your grammar, the grammatical structures, you would be able to maybe make better sentences and focus on your vocabulary on the other areas in a better way. Because the thing is, you are using some complex structures which are necessary in order to get 6 and above. But at the same time, you're making mistakes and you're making frequent mistakes. And because of those errors, you are losing mark. So that's one part of the story, using complex structures. And if you ask yourself what exactly those complex structures are, you should use relative clauses. For example, this is the person who lives here, who, which, that, whose, whom. Subordinate clauses like to-clause sentences, conditional sentences, and compound sentences. You were actually using relative clauses, subordinate clauses, zero, and first conditional. That's good. You can make better compound sentences by using better connectives, the ones I mentioned in the fluency and coherence criteria. But in any case, you are using the complex, like a mix of simple and complex structures, and that would bring you a 6. But you got a 5 today because you were making frequent mistakes. And if I want to mention some, I can say, for example, you said, I'm currently which is I'm currently working. That kind of job. In your sentence, you have to say it like that. More easier, much easier. In the big cities, when you're talking about something generally, then you use it in plural form. It depends on. you might find it difficult to, or it might be difficult to. A lot of color, a lot of colors. So be careful with the singular, plural. That's one of the mistakes that you repeated several times. They tend to be preferred. They tend to prefer. Visit to the other country, to visit other countries or another country. A lot of Japanese restaurants. A lot of people are visited Japan. A lot of people visit Japan. No article. A lot of places. Lose diet. I think you intended to say lose weight, but you said lose diet. More healthier, much healthier, and so on. These were just some of the main mistakes you made. So that's what you should work on, because you also used passive voice. You used present perfect tense, and a range of tenses using passive voice, they make a difference. But because of those mistakes, you're not getting a 6 or even a 7, because making fewer mistakes will bring you a 6. Now, giving a better range to those complex structures would bring you a 7. Now, you can see the problem is with the errors. And finally, talking about your pronunciation. In your pronunciation, you got another 5 because the problem is your pace is okay. Like everything is clear to understand in your speaking. And your intonation is also fine. Like your speaking doesn't sound flat when you're speaking to the examiner. But you have mispronunciations and sometimes word stress or sentence stress problems. For example, some mispronunciations you had, like area, positive, outgoing, like, color, sushi, tradition, variety, typically, vegetables, gathering. And that's why you're getting a 5 and not a 6. So if you just work on those mispronunciations, it's very easy for you to get a 6 in this criteria. So just to wrap up, your overall value score in today's test would be a 5.5. But I believe you can mark it up to a 6. It's just a matter of time and practice, because now you know you are fine with the structures. But first of all, you should work a little bit on your grammar. And based on that, you can maybe add a better range to your vocabulary, to your connectives. And this is how you can mark up to a 6, which is your target score. Now, do you have any questions?
Well, especially part 3, there are some difficult questions that I can say immediately. Why should I say something?
I would say when you face such questions, like you're right. In the third part, many questions are similar, and you're like, okay, I already answered the question. What else can I say now? Because you already talked about the same topic in the second part, and now there are more questions about that. So in this case, you can either use fillers and boosters to come up with the next idea. Like you don't have to start answering the question directly. When I ask you a question, for example, you say, what is a balanced diet based on the topic you talked about? You can simply say, well, that's a good question. Let me think about it. I should say that a balanced diet would be, then you start talking. So you can simply buy yourself some time by filling up the gaps. You can look for boosters and fillers in IELTS speaking to buy time. Boosters and fillers to express my opinion, to talk about past memories, and so on. So any situation that you might be struggling with. So that's one way. The other one is to fake your answer, because you might have already talked about that topic or that kind of question. For example, I ask you about a balanced diet. You can simply say, well, I would say a balanced diet would be one part of the story, but it's also important to have, for example, to get regular exercise every day, because you can include this, and this in your diet, but if you're not exercising all the time, then you will not lose weight, or you will not manage to keep fit, and so on. So you can just add some details on some close topics, or fake your answer somehow, or talk about somebody else's experience as if you're talking about yours. And you can always use fillers and boosters either in the beginning or in the middle of your answers to maybe fill up the gap and then keep talking. So I would say, these can really help you in the third part.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Any other questions?
Nothing else.
All right, perfect. So if you have no questions, Hannah, I wish you best of luck with your test. Have a nice time, and I say goodbye to you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.